Hello, students. All right, we're back to finish off our notes with a very short segment here, dealing with our next part of our topic called ecological succession. At the beginning of the week, I showed you a video of me when I used to work as a park ranger, and I showed you a demonstration of ecological succession, a change from one species to another. And so we're just going to finish up our notes here by discussing this concept of ecological succession, which can be described as a gradual change from one community to another. Now, the word community there has a very specific meaning. I want you to think about previous topics we've discussed and how a community describes that interplay or the interaction of the various living or biotic parts of an ecosystem. So, this is what we're discussing when we talk about ecological succession, a gradual change from one community to another. And this happens. The longer you live, if you live to be as long as me, you will begin to see a lot of changes taking place in the environment. For instance, actually, I'm going to give you an example in our notes here. So let's move on. Now, whoa, where'd I go? Here I am. I'm back. I just want to discuss one more term here, and it's called a climax community. A climax community is a stable community of organisms. And what that means is that a climax community, being a stable community of organisms, is something that, well, won't change that much over time. But in order to achieve a climax community, a lot of change can take place. Now, let me give you an example. Let's say there's an area right around where we live here in this part of northwestern New Jersey that is an open field. Let's say it's been all of the vegetation has been removed except for grass. Maybe you can think about your front lawn or your backyard or an open field down the street. If we begin with an open field and you keep mowing it every week during the summer, it's going to remain an open field. But what if you leave it alone and you don't touch it for a long period of time? Eventually, you are going to see some changes taking place. It's not going to be a nicely kept lawn anymore because eventually shrubs are going to start growing in that open field. Various birds or critters are going to be bringing seeds in for other plant species, and those seeds are going to germinate and they're going to start growing. And eventually, you're not going to have a lawn anymore. You're going to have lots of shrubs, smaller plants growing in that area. In fact, it may only take a year or two for an open field to start growing some crazy shrubs. But leave that alone long enough, and eventually, not only are you going to have grasses and shrubs, but trees are going to start to grow. Now, again, if you mow it over periodically, you're going to prevent that growth from taking place. But left alone to nature, ecological succession allows for these trees to start growing taller and taller if nothing is cutting them down. Eventually, those trees will give rise to what we call a climax community. Now, in the northwestern part of New Jersey, the climax community around us simply is an oak type forest, a mixed oak forest. If you look in areas around us that have been undisturbed for many years, you will undoubtedly see lots and lots of oak trees in an oak forest. You'll see other species too, but by and large, the climax community near us is an oak forest. However, Go to different parts of even our own state of New Jersey. For instance, go down to the Pine Barrens, which is a national preserve in southern New Jersey, and there are over 1 million acres of pine forest because the pine forest is the climax community there. Go to the Great Plains and the climax community are tall grasses and the prairies. Go to other regions of our country or other regions of the world, and based on the temperature and the precipitation, in other words, the climate of an area, in conjunction with the type of soil that exists there, will give rise to a different type of climax community. So, a climax community is the result of just leaving nature alone and finding out what eventually will come into its place. But the more human activity there is in an area, the less the area will be allowed to return to a climax community, and we will alter that the ecology of that environment significantly. So that's the brief little segment on ecological succession. And so until next time, I'll say bye bye.